why are we bad-mouthing like ethical breeders and people who like want to go to ethical breeders, and also people who think like there's black and white to backyard breeders and ethical breeders when there's literally not? And I think if you're relying 100% on TikTok for your ethical breeding and like to know what to look for, it's a good like jumping point and like starting point to be like, okay, like these are a list of things I can look for when I'm looking for a good breeder. But like if that's all you're doing, if your only resource is TikTok, then you accidentally finding a backyard breeder or a puppy mill is like 100% on you. Also, I just want to start off, like, no one is saying that ethical breeders are like the gods of dog breeding. Like, human error exists. Also, you can't account for everything. You can only do the absolute best that you can to produce stable, healthy dogs. But at the end of the day, like, it's a living being and things happen, and like it's not always accounted for, or surprises happen because there's human error, but also it's a live animal. I would rather go to someone who like did everything they could to produce like a healthy, stable dog than someone who's like, oh, this is a pretty breed and I'm gonna breed it pretty colors, and then charge like an insane amount of money for so I can make money. Like, no one wants to go to a breeder like that. Also, I would never go to a breeder that their only title was champion. Okay, champion of what? Also, like, only had CGC and like the TKN title. Like, personally, that's not what I'm looking for. If you're looking for like a companion, then like that should matter to you. Well, I'm not saying that it should matter to you, but then you wouldn't really care about other titles. But I know that there's backyard breeder conformation shows that exist. I know backyard breeders buy champion titles for their dogs without actually earning them, and it's so funny because like not a lot of people know about that, but it's incredibly popular because everyone wants a champion title dog. I would be like perfectly okay. Let's say if I'm looking for like a Labrador, which is an incredibly popular breed. So you would think that like a lot of backyard breeders exist around really common breeds. So if there was a Labrador Retriever breeder around me that didn't have any titles, that like only bred certain hunting dogs and gun dogs, I would consider that an ethical breeder, because I don't think labs need titles to prove that they're really good at their job. If you have a history of people who have bought puppies from you that are like they're amazing family dogs, or there's some families that they go to that they're amazing hunting dogs, like I love them so much, and like that's their history, then I would consider that a green flag. Like, I don't need a Labrador Retriever to have like titles on them to know that they're like a good family dog. Like, if you have a good history of them being a good family dog, or having the breed standard temperament of a Labrador Retriever, one that doesn't rescore scarred, one that doesn't have an incredibly high prey drive that they're going to kill small dogs, like, then I can sit, and you don't have a history of like silver labs or any major health defects that are consistent in the pedigree, then I would consider that to be like an ethical breeder. But there's so many people, like even if you go buy a shepherd, like your well-bred shepherd is still going to be reactive, or like still have a really high chance of being reactive because they're a shepherd. They were bred to react to stimuli at a fast pace. Like, and noise aversion is super common in shepherds too because they're built for that. It doesn't mean that because your dog, your shepherd, like developed noise aversion that the breeder you went to was a backyard breeder. No, it's not. It's like a part of genetics. You can't go buy a dog from a breeder and discount genetics entirely. You can't go, like, I'll say it again, for a shepherd and be like, well, my last shepherd that I bought from a shelter, mine for example, has noise aversion and is highly reactive to everything. Like, no, you should account for that when you go to an ethical breeder as well. Like, yeah, I would say the only major like not breed standard thing for my Aussie is extreme fear of people, because that's not breed standard. It's not common. That's not really a genetic thing. And I know a lot of people say, well, shepherds are naturally aloof to strangers. Yes, they are. But that doesn't mean they're terrified of them. That doesn't mean that they have aggression towards them. That just means they're not like gonna go and run up to them and be incredibly friendly. And if they do, that's great. That's a plus. But it's not the breed standard. And if a breeder has Aussies or Border Collies or German Shepherds that are incredibly fearful of dogs and people, and that's like a common thing that runs in the pedigree, that is not an ethical breeder who is doing everything they can to produce well-tempered dogs. That is just a dog breeder who knows that Aussies or Shepherds or whatever are popular and they're gonna keep breeding them for money. This is honestly just a long-winded post to say, if you're looking to get a specific breed, you need to research the origin of that breed, see what is available, what the breed standard is, the history of people who have bought from that breeder. Like, titles, honest to God, are the least important thing when you're looking for an ethical breeder. Like, you gotta obviously knock out the obvious, which is, are they breeding out of standard colors? Like, consistently and charging more for them because they're pretty colors. Like, that to me is a red flag. I know a lot of people are saying that Merle bullies, while it is an out of standard color, it doesn't mean that it gives them defects, and that's like true. But like, if you're only breeding Merles and you're charging like an absurd amount for them, then you're obviously doing it for the wrong reason. And I also believe in outcrossing. Like, Cavaliers have really bad heart issues, and I think we should be outcrossing Cavaliers to hopefully diminish that issue that they have. Like, and if a breeder is outcrossing to better the breed, which is a huge thing of ethical breeding, if they are outcrossing for a good reason because they want to end something in the breed, then I still think that is an ethical breeder. It's just so crazy that people say people are so black and white with it, but like, no one's black. No one who's genuinely thinking about this and genuinely like considering going to an ethical breeder being black and white about any of it. Because if we're really, really thinking about it, outcrossing would be considered a red flag. No titling would be considered a red flag. But having a reactive dog lineage would be considered a red flag. But to me, it's none of those things are red flags. Like none of them are red flags. If your dog can do what its original purpose it was bred for to do, if it can do that, that's a green flag for me. If your dog doesn't have any titles, but only has champion titles, that's a red flag because you can buy champion titles. But if they don't have any titles, but they're actively working, that's a green flag. If they are reactive, but they're like, a genetically known to be reactive towards their environment because that's the job that they were originally bred for, I do not consider that to be a red flag. But I know most people would consider that to be a red flag because that's what TikTok told them. You can't have black and white thinking on ethical breeders. No one's thinking that they are the end all be all. But to educate people on what makes a good ethical breeder is really important because so many people just grow up thinking that all breeders are good and don't intend for people to be and don't understand there is genetic testing, there is health testing that you can do, there is to take into account what their temperament is like why would a breeder not breed a perfectly healthy dog but their temperament is bad. I wouldn't buy from that breeder, but a lot of people would, and it's really important and it's a good topic to talk about. So no one's thinking that ethical breeders are black and white. Human error exists and there's plenty of reasons to outcross and for dogs not to have titles.